It's Reefer MEDness, the podcast with Trevor and Kirk.
All right, we good? Kirk, we're back.
How's it going, Trevor?
Good. I had a really nice chat with Dr. Vlad Gavril from Germany. It was amazing. He just kind of reached out to us on LinkedIn. I'll talk more about that later so we can listen to Dr. Vlad, but I was literally in Walmart buying foam to try to make my microphone less echoey. And suddenly a message came up, and a few things later, we had pretty much agreed on interviewing him. So it's just really cool. I don't usually have Thursdays off. I suddenly had a Thursday off and was getting messages from Germany, and it turned into an interview.
Yeah, and he's a fan of the podcast. He's been listening to us for 6 months, he said. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, fan of the show. So do you want to just get into him, and then we'll discuss? He had lots of interesting things to say, medical legalization, etc., and patients he's been treating. You want to talk about more of that when we come back out?
We should introduce ourselves. We're trying to get into that gig, right?
We do keep forgetting that. Okay, I'm Trevor Schiffelt. I'm the pharmacist.
I'm Kirk Nyquist. I'm the registered nurse, and welcome to Reefer MEDness, the podcast. You found us, and we tell stories about our learning in cannabis. So you're going to learn how we learn about cannabis. And this is actually an interesting episode because we just spent the last 15 minutes trying to educate ourselves on the laws in Germany, so that we could sound semi intelligent in this conversation.
Yeah, it's probably good we don't record everything we do, but yeah, we just spent a little bit of time Googling and whatnot about laws in Germany, but we'll talk about that on the way back out.
Yeah, let's go into the interview.
Okay, welcome back to Reefer MEDness. On the line today, we have Dr. Vlad Gavril, but I'm going to get him to introduce himself properly so we get the pronunciations. Vlad, introduce yourself for us.
Yeah, hello. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's really an honor to be here since I really enjoy your podcast. I'm a GP from Germany, and I'm listening to your podcast every week whenever there is a new episode since almost half a year now. Like I said, I'm a GP, but I'm focused on the treatment with cannabinoids. I'm interested in it since almost 6 years now. But I got my license 3 years back now, and since then I'm prescribing also because before, of course, I was just consulting and I was not allowed to prescribe myself.
Okay, so what first got you interested in cannabis for patients? Often there's one patient who sort of gets people interested. Was it a single patient, or what got you interested?
To be honest, no. It was one of my best friends back then. He started a wholesale company in Germany back in 2017, and then he started telling me more and more about cannabis. To be honest, I myself didn't have much contact with cannabis. I have a brother who, let's put it like this, he misused cannabis, so I was kind of negatively on it. But then he told me about the medical use of it, and then I started reading about it. And then when COVID hit, I really went deep into it. I contacted people from all over the world. I was talking to Raphael Meshulam, I was talking to Dustin Sulak, Mara Gordon. I just contacted them via LinkedIn. And we do now, we set up a meeting on Zoom, we talk, we exchange ideas, and I got more and more interested. And then I decided for myself to focus on it, because in Germany, unfortunately, we don't have many doctors who are, we have more and more doctors prescribing it. But to be honest, in my opinion, not many doctors know a lot about it. So they prescribe it because patients are coming to their office. They are asking for it, and basically patients are telling the doctors what they want to have on their prescription, and then the doctor just prescribes it, tells them to be careful, and that's it. So this was my aim, to go in there in this niche, let's call it like this, and to specialize in it and to really also give like knowledge to the patients, because in my opinion, if you use cannabis properly, it's totally different than the recreational use. Then cannabis can really be a powerful tool.
Well, that's very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about cannabis in Germany. So even if I didn't have a cannabis specialist like you, I could just go to my GP and say, I want some cannabis, and they could write me a prescription, or how does that usually work?
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's true. So when you get your license in Germany, it's called Approbation. This is the German term for it. As soon as you get it, then you back then, like till the partial legalization in Germany, which took place in April 2024, it was supposed to be given to a patient on a narcotics prescription, and these are really like doctors are really careful with them to issue them because of course there are a lot of risks and so on. But as soon as you get your license, you can apply basically to get those prescriptions, and you don't even have to have a medical training already, like in a clinic. You don't have to be a specialist doctor. You can prescribe them. Yeah.
Okay. And then as a patient with the prescription, what do I do? Do I walk down to my apotheca, my pharmacy, and get it? Does it mail to me? How do I get the cannabis after I've got the prescription?
So there are different kinds of ways. Many pharmacies by now, they are specialized on cannabis in Germany. So they have their normal day-to-day thing going on with whatever medication that you know, and then they have a separate website most of the time, which is like their cannabis department, and then you can order it and get it delivered to you via DHL, for example. Or, of course, you can go to the doctor, take your original prescription, and then you go in person to the pharmacy. And then, of course, I like this more because then also from the pharmacist, you get a bit more of some education on how to take it properly and all this kind of stuff. Because, like I said in the beginning, we have a lot of telemedicine platforms, and the doctors there are, in my opinion, way too loose with issuing them. So the patients are not getting the education they need to use it properly.
Well, that's fascinating. So a regular pharmacy in Germany can have cannabis sort of sitting there besides the cholesterol pills and the antibiotics. It's allowed in pharmacies.
Yeah, it is allowed. They don't have it in the let's call it in the place where you go as a patient, as a client. They don't have it there on the shelf next to the normal other drugs, but they have it in their in their storage. And then when you go there and you give them the prescription, some of them they will issue you the cannabis really fast in containers. I think the podcast is without video, but in these containers that you see here. Okay. This is, for example, one. And then you get it and you can take it with you. But most of the pharmacies, they are really careful because of the smell and so on, because it's still let's say a field where most of the German people are really reluctant. They still have those stigma around that it's I don't know, a gateway drug and all this kind of stuff. So right. Many pharmacies, they see especially the economical value in it. So they do it out of reasons financially and so on, but they still want to have it separated from the normal day-to-day business in the pharmacy.
Okay. Are there recreational stores in Germany too? Like if I didn't have a prescription, can I walk into a recreational store and purchase cannabis, or is it just medical?
No, as I told you already, from April 2024, there was the partial legalization. It this was the pillar number 1, and they said there will be pillar number 2 or column. I don't know the English term to put it,
yeah,
but they want to do it. Yeah. They want to do it in 2 steps. So first step was the medical use, that it went out of the narcotics prescription sector. So every doctor could just issue it on a normal prescription. So it was way easier also for doctors to prescribe it. So the availability, the access for patients got way easier. Then a lot of telemedical platforms went in, and you can see it also on the numbers. They exploded when this happened in Germany. So, but if you just want to use cannabis for relaxation or whatever kind of reasons, recreational use, then the only possibility you have is to like grow it yourself at home. You are allowed in Germany per like household to have, I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3 plants per person or per household. But if you can't do this, the only way still in Germany is to have a doctor prescribing it to you. And then this is like a big discussion in Germany, because like the recreational and medical sectors are really like going into each other. Like there is no clear border. And this like, there are politicians who really criticize it and so on. And now there's also like in the German parliament, like a debate going on to change the laws again, because they say there's a lot of misuse.
Okay. So let's go now into your practice. That was fascinating what's going on in Germany. But so you specialize, we'll call it specialize in cannabis and patients. What do typical people come to you for that you're using cannabis to help them with? What sort of conditions are you treating with cannabis and cannabinoids?
So number one condition for sure is chronic pain, for whatever reason, like for sure back pain, but also like pain as a side symptom of other chronic illnesses. Then we have for sure insomnia. Many patients with insomnia that are working like a shift system. Like we have many people working at big industry facilities that they work day and night shift, and then their whole circadian rhythm gets like disturbed. So they use cannabis for sleep aid before like going to benzos and other drugs. So they are really afraid of side effects. So they come to us as doctors, and then we give them medical cannabis. For sure, we have like the indications where also like the dronabinol, I think in America or like in Canada, it's called Marinol. It's the same, I believe. So these ones are like, for example, for chemo-induced nausea and vomiting, to stimulate appetite. But like in my office, most of the patients come for chronic pain, insomnia, but also, and this for me especially is really important to mention this, for psychiatric disorders, for example, depression, ADHD, and so on. And there in Germany, we have like doctors who work in this like specialties, and they are really alarmed by it, because their experiences are with patients or users who misuse and end up in the psychiatry because they got a disorder from it. But they're like, in my opinion, it's really important as doctors to step in there, because I ask myself, but why do they end up there? And in my opinion, it's because they don't find a doctor, they don't find anyone to talk to and tell them about how cannabis helps them. And then you can really check the terpene profile and so on, and give them a proper strain which helps them more. Because patients in Germany, a lot of them, they don't know anything about entourage effects and all these kinds of things. They know indica, they know sativa, and that's it. So most of them, not all of them. Like sometimes I'm surprised. Sometimes I have patients that they use cannabis for decades, and I'm honest, they know even more about cannabis than I do, because I am really deep into it since 6 years, I would say. But of course, like after using it for 30 years, and when you read about it, of course, your knowledge it's much broader. So I learn every day.
No, that's fascinating. And I want to talk more about the mental health things, but just before I forget, how are most of your patients taking their cannabis? Are they smoking it? Are they vaping it? Are they eating gummies? Is there a way they get
Uh,
it into them the most often?
in Germany, it's not allowed to smoke medical cannabis.
Okay.
So because on the prescription we write to vape and inhale. So when you use a
Okay.
joint, you burn it. So it's not allowed. Then the patients also can get into trouble with police and so on when they are stopped and when they are asked. So like I instruct patients to get a vaporizer and to start vaping because also there the temperature is much lower. So they get, like I always tell them, you get everything out of it, all the good and the bad, like the carcinogenic effects and so on are way less with vaporizing. For me, it's important to tell patients vaporizing isn't healthy, but it's healthier than smoking. Because like some doctors are telling patients vaping is really healthy for you and so on. So I'm really like I really want to educate my patients correctly and don't tell them vaping is healthy because I'm quite sure it's not. But I always do a risk. How do you call this? Risk benefit ratio.
Risk benefit. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and then like I go for vaping, but I also try to show my patients the whole picture. So in Germany, we can prescribe flower, cannabis flower, which is to
Right.
be weighed, and then we can also prescribe oil. And
Okay.
most of it we have in Germany is full spectrum oil. And there we have like different kinds of strengths, you say, like 10,
Yep.
10,
Yep.
25, 25, 25, 1, and so on, 51, 100, 1, 100, 100, so many different. And this for me is really important since in Germany, like the insurance companies are really reluctant to take the cost for cannabis if it's flower, because they say with flower it's really hard to reproduce the effect and so on.
Okay.
So for me as a doctor, I always like you have to fill in a formula
Form.
like
Yeah.
form, and this is quite hard to get the insurance company to cover the cost. It's really just when you are basically, we have the guidelines and you have to fulfill the guidelines. And as a last resort, maybe they will pay for the cannabis therapy. With flower, impossible by now. So I try to tell my patients, try both, try flower and try oil. And then we will see which works for you the best. But in Germany, since the education for patients is really low, I would say, most of the patients only know from also recreational use and so on, the vaping or slash the smoking part.
Okay. So let's talk more about the mental health things because it seems to come up in Canada lately a lot too. If someone had depression or anxiety and was coming to see you, maybe they're on an SSRI, maybe they're not. What has been working for your patients, or what sort of cannabinoids or terpenes? What have you been doing with them?
Yeah, so unfortunately in Germany, we don't get much information about the minor cannabinoids. We get as doctors, I can see a certificate of analysis, but there I only get the THC, the CBD content, and the terpenes, but not the CBN, CBG, and all the other cannabinoids. So I really look forward to because I believe for sure also minor cannabinoids are really important. But like I go especially for the terpene profile. So to patients that let's say like it's depression with in the morning with like a lack of energy, you just want to stay in bed and all this kind of stuff. Then I would go for terpenes, which are like more in the which give you the feeling of like getting energy, but like I don't want to put it like you take the cannabis and then boom, you are like totally energized and you are happy and so on. But with time, I believe that what my patients are also like telling me, when you choose the right strain with the right terpene profile, and it's really, really individual. But I go like for limonene, for terpenoline, for like those kinds of terpenes. Then they see that they are like getting out of bed more easy. They get motivated again. And then you can start like doing a bit of sports, because for me, it's also really important to tell my patients, you have this endocannabinoid system in you. Okay. And there are also, again, two like pillars. One is the endogenous part, which we have, which we can like activate by doing stuff like meditation, yoga, sport, going for a run and all this kind of stuff. But when you are depressed, and unfortunately, I know how it is to be depressed because I myself suffer from depression in my life. So then it's really, really hard to get the motivation to go for a run. So I tell them, like, we will introduce cannabis, we will get your endocannabinoid system activated. But when you get again to this point where you feel a bit of more motivation, then it's really important for you to take this motivation and to go for a run. So you have like both systems, both parts like activated, the endogenous one, and of course, exogenously, you can add the cannabinoids, the phytocannabinoids, and they also work on your receptors. And when you tell the patient that it works like this, then they understand it more properly, and then they also see it as medicine. I believe, like, that's my experience in the years since I do cannabis. Many patients still don't see it really as medicine. They see it as something that helps them, but not as real medicine. Like something like more like herbal medicine. But in Germany, like, unfortunately, many people don't think like really highly about herbal medicine or like other ways of medicine. Like it's more like concentrated on Western medicine. On you have a symptom, you give a drug, then you're fine. But like I use also cannabis, I always tell my patients, before you take it, also put yourself an intention. Why do you use it? What do you want to achieve by using it? And like this, I believe the use is more conscious, and then also misuse happens way less. That's at least my experience.
No, that blends really well with some of the other people we've been talking to about mindset before they use it, and we've come across that a lot lately about being in the right frame of mind and what you're trying to get out of it ahead of time. So no, that's fascinating. How about, I don't know if one comes to mind, but a really unusual case where, you know, I didn't know that cannabis would help for this. And anyone come to mind as sort of an unusual, I can't believe cannabis helped this person kind of patient that's come up lately?
I just had a case on last Friday. I do a lot of telemedicine also. And like I had a video call with a patient from Munich. And in the south of Germany, also there, like cannabis, like is really, like, you know, in Germany, in the south, it's where beer is from. So there they drink a lot Bavaria. Of beer. Yeah, exactly, Bavaria. So he was like a 59-year-old, a guy who was doing a lot of trading. And because he was doing trading also like in America, in Australia and so on, also he developed insomnia. And he started the conversation with telling me, I'm just here because of a friend of mine. And I said, okay, well, but how can I help you? Like, and then he told me about the insomnia, which was like ongoing for years. Sometimes worse, sometimes it got better and so on. He tried benzos and so on. Like he was like addicted to them. And like he told me he will never take those again. So I told him, like, well, you are at the right person here, because like I believe that with cannabis we can like do better than with benzos and so on. So he told me like he doesn't want to smoke. He never smoked like cigarettes and so on. So I told him, okay, then we have the option of an oil, and it's way better because also a lot of patients who come to me with insomnia, they used cannabis before, many of them, and they know with cannabis, of course, you can reduce the time that it takes you to fall asleep. But because via the inhalation route, the duration of the effect lasts for let's say 2 to 3 hours. And when you got a bit of tolerance, then even less. So I tell my patients, of course, with cannabis, you can reduce the time for you to fall asleep. But then after 2 hours, 3 hours, you will be awake again. And then it will be hard again for you to fall back into sleep. So that's why I do a combi therapy, basically. I tell them, take something to inhale for you to fall into sleep faster. But then for sleeping through the night, you will use an oil because the oil takes much longer for the effect for the onset. But then it lasts 4 to 8 hours. That's what the literature we have here says.
Sure.
And I told him too, and he was really reluctant. Yesterday I got an email from him, and he was like, "Thank you, you're my king. I love you," and so on. "I can finally sleep again. I'm so thankful. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And in the beginning, he was totally reluctant. He just made an appointment because a friend of his who also was suffering from insomnia, he came to me. But insomnia is something that we know, that we can treat with cannabis. In my opinion, everyone who maybe smoked when he was a student or whatsoever, he knows that cannabis can put you to sleep if you have the right terpenes also. But cases where I was really mind blown are of course cases where the patients were not able to go to work anymore because of the pain. They were really stuck in bed. They barely could walk. We as with my two basically they are my bosses. We do also house visits, you say also in English. We go to them, to their apartment, to their house. And we had one patient, he was he wasn't able to come to our office. He was not able to. And with him, we started he had pregabalin, he had all the drugs that you can imagine. And then we started him on cannabis. And after it took some time, but after 2 months, he was able to walk again properly, without any pain. So this, for me, of course, it's one in let's say 100 cases. But for me, everyone counts. So even if it's just the one, I'm happy for him because it changed his life. He went back to work. He is not dependent anymore on the money that he is getting from the government. His quality of life is way better. It's amazing how you can change a patient's life.
And that's amazing. But on your pain patients, like your guy on the pregabalin, do you find when they start using cannabis for pain, they start using less of their pregabalin and less of their opioids? And does the other medication end up becoming less?
For sure, not all of them, for sure. But some of them, yes. For example, a friend of one of my brothers, my brother is a roofer. So of course, when you work as a roofer, then after some years you will have the chronic back pain and so on. So he had I think on 3 different levels, he had herniated disc and a lot of pain, and he was put on opioids starting with the age of 20 and really heavy doses, even they exceeded the maximum doses. So in my opinion, the doctors made him addicted to opioids,
right?
He was to oxycodone. And with time, after 6 months, we were able to taper off the opioids completely. So he's without.
Really?
But this is
all the way off.
Yeah, all the way. But with many, and this is also an important thing to say, with many patients, you try it with cannabis and there is no benefit at all. It also happens quite a lot. So this is also in the discussion in general, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I go to Congress and so on, and I only see black and white. So in my opinion, we have to make ourselves like honest again and transparent and tell patients it's an option, but it doesn't work for everyone. But like
That's a good message.
Why I try with many patients is because if you take the side effects and you compare it to, for example, for chronic pain with opioids and so on, and for long-term use of opioids, the side effects with cannabis, if you use it properly, are really, really low. Plus, it's super easy to get patients off of cannabis. There is no, how do you call it with opioids, the withdrawal symptoms.
Withdrawal.
Yeah, like these you have, of course, you have them with a lot of patients that use cannabis recreationally, and they used it like they misused it, to be honest. There you can have like if you just cut the cannabis, then like for the first days or even weeks it will be really hard for you to sleep properly. You will have maybe also night sweat and so on. But if I get patients of cannabis, which were like really good with the dose and so on, they are really good. How do you say if a patient gets the right dose and so on? We have the German
the right dose.
The right dose.
The right dose.
Then it's really easy to take them off of cannabis without any withdrawal symptoms.
Well, this has been fascinating, and I'm really glad we got in contact over LinkedIn, and you agreed to, pick a time of day when we were both awake to talk about this. I'll go to my usual last question. Is there anything that you think our listeners should hear about? Any question I missed? Anything you really want to talk about before we let you go?
Yeah, like I said, to talk also about the bad sides of cannabis, of the misuse. This is really important to me, but also to ask your doctor, ask him if he can reach out to a doctor who knows about cannabis already, if he or she doesn't know about it. There are like these associations that we have in Germany by now, which you can reach out to, and it's hard to find a doctor, but there are doctors, and you can also do telemedicine, which is like okay in Germany by now. Let's see for changes. But also like for doctors, I want to say, just have in mind that cannabis can be an option. And if you don't know about it, check for like colleagues like me or others. There are many others who know a lot about cannabis, because in my opinion, you want to do the best for your patient, and sometimes the best for your patient can be cannabis.
I think that's a great place to end. Dr. Vlad, it was really good to meet you. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Kirk, I loved my chat with Dr. Vlad. One of the things that leapt out for me is he, like all the other docs we talked to, he didn't start because a patient came to him. He sort of got interested in cannabis because a friend who had a wholesale cannabis company started telling him about all the cool stuff that cannabis could do. And then he started looking into it. So a different route in than we usually hear about.
Yeah, that's very true. And how he learned about cannabis was by getting into the international scene and calling people up and talking to people. Whereas what we have learned in the past from many of our practitioners that go back to the early aughts is that they were learning from patients. Whereas this gentleman, and thank you very much for contacting us, he went off and talked to the medical researchers, the godfathers.
Called up Professor Meshulam.
Yeah.
He mentioned Dustin Sulak, just not really a plug, but we'll do it anyway. I have Dustin Sulak's book here, one of them. I've heard him talk a few times at CanMed events. So yeah, he just, got on a Zoom call with some big names in cannabis. I'm sure he did other research too.
Yeah.
We learned through Zoom, and he was too.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's kind of cool. This is a Germany-centric story, and Germany is now, and this is what what we were talking about. Germany is one of 3 European countries that is technically legal for recreational cannabis, but they've done it in a unique way.
Well, and he would disagree. As I did ask him that he called it partial legalization in April 2024. So before that, you'd need a controlled drugs uh, prescription to get it, like you would for, fentanyl and hydromorphone and other opioids in Canada. We call it M3P here, but a controlled drugs prescription from the doctor. In 2024, you need a regular prescription from any old general practitioner, and you can get cannabis with that. But when I asked him, there really isn't a walk down to a local rec shop without any pieces of paper and buy cannabis. That wasn't really a thing. But you did find that there does seem to be some social clubs in Germany.
Yeah, well, like always, a lot of our guests just send me into rabbit holes. And according to Wikipedia, cannabis in Germany, quote unquote, cannabis in Germany was legalized for recreational use by adults 18 years and older, April 1st, 24. I've gone to several different sites on the internet, how to buy weed in Germany through cannabis clubs. So I think what Germany has done, from what I've read, is that it is legal to grow cannabis. You can grow up to three plants, and he mentioned that. And you can get cannabis from a medicinal prescription, and we talked about that. But in the rec market, I guess what they've done is that they haven't made it easy to get cannabis. So you have to join a social club to get your cannabis legally. And I guess, we've said this 1,000 times. We believe, 99.9% of the people that consume cannabis are doing it for a medicinal reason. But they call it a rec market because it's not, the police don't bother you. So the other thing that's unique about Germany is you have to live in the community. You have to live in Germany. I think it's up to 6 months or a period of time before you can go to the social clubs and get cannabis. So tourists can't do this. Unlike, I guess, what I did in Spain, no one told me I couldn't do it, and nobody said, even perceived that I could do it. But I guess in Germany, I wouldn't be able to go to the cannabis clubs and get stories. Or maybe I could go, but I wouldn't be allowed to consume cannabis. So tourists can't consume cannabis. You can't go there and have a cannabis holiday.
No,
But I guess,
but on something completely different, because pharmacist here, I thought it was cool that people are going into a pharmacy to get their cannabis. You can have
yes,
it delivered. That was cool, but also maybe surprising. You don't, stand in the spot that you get your cholesterol pill and your antibiotic, and also get your cannabis. It seems to, because of stigma, seems to be in literally a separate part of the pharmacy. So I'm picturing a divided pharmacy, or maybe one door for regular prescriptions and another door for your cannabis. But it does seem like he said seems to be separated, which is still better than what we have here.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. Cannabis, and how we perceive cannabis, and how this plant is just so, how people are just so afraid of it. And I shouldn't say people, how governments are just so afraid of it. In again, Wikipedia, we've got Czech Republic, Georgia, Germany, and Luxembourg, and Malta are the European countries. Malta's not in Europe though. So we got four European countries that are now legal for the quote unquote rec market. But again, there's nuances to it in the sense of going to Germany. Yeah. So is there anything specific that like, obviously the pharmacies, they get it from
Yeah, a
pharmacies? The
couple of
other,
things.
yeah.
One, not surprising, because people are people. Like one of our previous guests, and I've heard him talk now a few times in public talks. Dr. Blake Pearson talks about an unhappy triad of the types of people who come to his practice to get cannabis, and it matched perfectly with Dr. Vlad. So Dr. Vlad was saying, chronic pain, insomnia, and anxiety, depression, that combo. So it's maybe, again, not surprised. Maybe I was hoping that in Germany they were going to all come in for MS or something, but it's not. But no, it's the chronic pain, can't sleep, and depression, anxiety is the reason they're there. Again, not surprising. German insurance companies don't like paying for vaped cannabis, but they will pay more often for oil. And then one that I just kind of blew my mind a little is you can't, according to Dr. Vlad, you can't really smoke a joint in Germany, like combustible pot or tobacco, or you're just, there's not a lot of smoking. So they write right on their prescriptions to vape, not smoke. Again, he says, I won't call vaping safe, but it's certain safer than smoking because you avoid those tricyclic hydrocarbons, the stuff you get from burning. You should get way less of it vaping. So I thought that was cool.
You're talking vape flowers, right? You're talking about flower vaping.
He was talking about buying flower and vaping it.
Yeah.
Another one that I liked because he stresses the endogenous endocannabinoid system. So instead of the $5 word, your body produces cannabinoids and it uses it for, keeping your body in good balance. He talks about when after he's prescribed an exogenous, a flower or a oil that after it's helping you get more in balance, that you've got to use your endogenous, your internal cannabinoid system to do stuff. So you said, once you sort of feel a little better and want to get off the couch from your depression, then you still have to go for that run or walk to have the exercise help out your endocannabinoid system. You still have to now eat well to help your endocannabinoid. So I like that he was trying to balance exogenous or outside cannabinoids with what your body was producing anyway by, stressing things like exercise and diet and meditation. He threw out meditation a few times.
Yeah, I think the word he used was engaged. Yeah. I think that's because that's what stood out for me as well. Is that his practice is to engage the endocannabinoid system, which I find interesting because I have always been, I mean, from the get-go when I first discovered cannabis as a teenager, cannabis has always been an active thing for me. I would go bike riding as a kid. I'd go hiking in the Souk Hills or up Mount Doug in Victoria. I would go to the beach. I was always moving. Those people, like I had friends that, we'd go into the basement of their house and their parents were pretty liberal and we would hotbox a bedroom and then people would sit around and listen to music and yeah, okay, this is good, but let's do something now. And I that captured me when you said engaging, because for me, I was never a lay around listening to Pink Floyd guy, never was.
Another one, and I really, and probably not surprising coming from a clinician instead of a researcher, he said, when he listens to cannabis podcasts or goes to conferences, it seems to all be black and white. This works fantastic. This works great. He said, you got to remember, it just doesn't work for some patients. And, to tell them ahead of time, we are going to try this for your chronic pain. And here's the reasons why I think it might work. And, here's the risk benefit, which is all good. But, it might not, and we might not have to try something else. So, he said, I've definitely had patients I tried cannabis for, didn't do a thing. We had to try something else. So I think that's good. It's, in some ways, it's just like every other medicine. It's going to work for some people, not for others, and it's not magic, and I like that. But he did say the nice thing, sort of on that benefit thing, is if it doesn't work, unlike opioids and benzos, really easy to come off of. There's none or minimal withdrawal effects, unlike opioids and benzodiazepines, which can have serious withdrawal effects. And if it's not working, it takes us a little bit of time and effort to get somebody off of it safely and for them to be comfortable.
I'm smiling at you here, Trevor, because you use a phrase that I want to push back on, and that
Sure.
is like cannabis is like any other med. It's not. That's the whole point. It's not like any other med. And I know from a pharmacist's perspective, you're looking at it. I get it. But this is the whole unique thing that frustrates the Western concept of medicine, is that it's not. I mean, one flower may not work for you. I think I said to you, a while back, a friend of the show gave me some genetics, medical genetics, and I was growing it without any feedback on what this stuff was. And so I grew some plants, and some of the plants I grew, I like my flower. I've said that many times. I'd go out and have it, and I'm waiting for the intoxication. I'm waiting for that THC whatever, and I'm going, well, this is garbage. But it's not, because more than likely it's a very high CBD cultivar. So what I've done, as I go out and again, it's so expensive to send your cannabis off and get it to get it analyzed, that a lot of growers don't, and I tend to be that guy now. But what I've come to understand about these plants as a grower and using it medicinally is, I know that particular cultivar, which I have in a jar in my cold room, is I use that for the rubs now, for the creams. I use that and I mix it in with some of the other ones, so I know I'm getting a multi-cultivar mixture, which is what Dr. Goldstrich talked about. And I use that particular cultivar specifically for my medicinal use of cannabis. Whereas I have some other cultivars that, whoa, this is dynamite, and that might be my recreational cannabis, So now, why did I
Yeah,
start
but
telling
just
this story?
because it can have, you're saying, if they
Yeah.
pick the right cultivar,
Yes.
right strain, and we're not minimizing that, but there's going to be people who it just doesn't work for. There's no, they you can try 100 cultivars, and this is not the medicine for them. And I think that's important for people to realize cannabis isn't magic. It's not going to work for everybody, for every condition, for all the time. And I think that's just good to have out there. And the last one was that just an Eric story for those of you who haven't heard about my son in a little while. So Eric, currently unemployed, but will be employed again. He works in refrigeration. So one of the companies he worked for recently, they fix hockey rinks. Like, he's been all over Northern Ontario and Manitoba looking at hockey rinks and putting in new piping for the refrigerant and he came home end of March for my wife's birthday. We were all out for dinner, and he saw a van of one of the companies he used to work for and was looking around to see if he recognized the person. And he did. The guy's name was Scott, apparently. The company was Berg and the guy was Scott. I said, "Oh, do you want to say hi?" "No, I don't like Scott." "All right, why don't you like Scott?" "Well, Scott thinks everything German is the best. Everything German is the best. He wants to retire, go to Germany. Everything in Canada is shit. It's awful. Everything German's the best." So Eric, mentioned that his grandmother was from Germany, and he couldn't. Apparently, Scott would then quizzed him about what town where his grandmother grew up in, and Eric couldn't remember. So after that, not only was Eric, a useless Canadian kid, he was a fake German because he didn't know what town it was. So Scott, Eric's grandmother's from Seckendorf. That's in Bavaria, which Dr. Vlad was talking about, the beer part of Germany. And years ago when we visited Doris's family in Hamburg, they kept apologizing to me for the beer, which was fantastic. Said, "Oh, but it's so much better in Bavaria." So yeah, it's just interesting that one of Dr. Vlad's patients was in Bavaria talking about beer, and sort of related to Eric, the fake German, whose grandmother really is German and really did grow up in Seckendorf, Scott. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. Scott from Berg happens to be listening to this episode.
And let's hope that we have a fan in Scott now. Yeah. So
So
this was
I really
good.
like that one. Any other things you want to talk about, Dr.
No,
Vlad and his practice and Germany?
what I got out of this is that we had a general practitioner, what they call medic, Dr. Medic, in Germany, contacted us, and thank you very much for doing that. And I guess we're open to others. I mean, if we know that people are listening to us from around the world, we see that in our stats, and we know that our audience is dedicated because we have a very steady number of downloads every month. So there's a lot of you out there that are listening to us, and we thank you. Call us, tell us a story. I mean, we seem to be getting a little bit of an international buzz going here. We've got stories from Australia, stories from Germany, stories from Morocco, stories from Spain, Britain. I've been trying to get some more Canadian stories, but Trevor, I last week I think I sent out like 10 different requests for Canadian researchers. Crickets, absolute crickets. The Canadian researchers don't want to talk to us. I wonder why.
Oh, I don't know. I'm thinking it's going to be like everything else. It's going to be crickets for months, and then suddenly we're going to have 5 researchers answer in a week, and we try to squeeze them in. Seems to come and go like that.
Well, very true. We do have lots on the shelf. And so thank you very much. We're Reefer MEDness, the podcast. You find us at reefermed.ca. I ask everybody to go to our webpage because it's a searchable webpage. You can learn from our webpage. And what if you are somebody that's just discovered us, the webpage allows you to search by topic and interests, opposed to just starting at episode 1 or episode 170. You can go back and really dial down to what your interest is.
No, it's been another good one. Dr. Vlad, again, thanks for reaching out to us. We'll talk to everyone next time.
Yeah, peace and love. See you next time.
Okay, so hold on. Stop there. Stop there.